Dear honorable academics and fellow participants, here we are on the 9th day of our international summer school, and we are nearly the end. Today we have 3 sessions with 3 distinguished academics, and I am proud of being presenter of each of them. As you are already familiar, each speaker has 30 minutes for the presentation and 15 minutes for Q&A session. Now let's get started, and let me introduce our first speaker, Professor Miki Hirano, who is going to present report of Japan. Professor Hirano is working at Kagawa University, and her research areas are criminal law mainly, criminal policy, and medical law. Last year, Professor Hirano was with us again in our summer school, and I would like to present to her our gratitude for contributing to us this much. Now the floor is yours, Professor Hirano. Thank you.
Thank you, introduction. And I feel honored to present this summer program of Istanbul University Summer School this year too. Last year, I also participated. And I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Adam Suzu. I also learned a lot from last year. Last year, I also learned a lot, not only from my presentation, from my own presentation, but also from the other professors' presentations, and also the questions from the students. So I was looking for this opportunity too. So this is Japan, and as you may know, it is a long island in Asian countries. And Japan is not a member of Council of Europe, but as an observer of Council of Europe. Therefore, if you compare with European countries, generally speaking, Japanese court don't refer to the European Convention on Human Rights. However, of course, the Japanese government is trying to be in line with the international standard or international community to eliminate any form of violence against women. But Japan does not ratify the Istanbul Convention yet. And let's see the population. We have so many people in a very small island, 126 million people, and the population, most of the population is concentrated in Tokyo area. And also we have 45 prefectures, local entities. So that is sometimes very important figure 47, when you see the task of prefectures or local governments. And yeah, next. Yes. And let's see the Global Gender Gap Index of the World Economic Forum. And Japan is ranked as 120 out of 156 countries in 2021. The worst thing is that as you could see here, and the rankings are dropping from 2006 after 2006 within 15 years, especially as you could see political empowerment. And the table below shows us the index of violence against women in Japan has such low scores if you compare with other countries starting I or J, like Ireland, Italy, Jamaica, so on. And let me explain about the criminal justice system and criminal court shortly. As I mentioned already, the Istanbul Convention is not ratified in Japan. And DV and violence against women is not defined in the criminal code in Japan. But we have the Act on the Prevention of Spousal Violence and Protection on Victims. So the violence against women or violence is defined in that act. And not only this act, DV Prevention Act, but also with the Basic Act for Gender Equal Society, we have some measures to prevent DV. And that is why the reason we introduced this act is that awareness to support for crime victims, especially in the family or personal relationship, is growing during that period. So now we have Child Abuse Prevention Act and also Anti-Stalking Act. And also, we notice that more support towards crime victims in the criminal justice system is necessary. So we have now a principle of the Crime Victims Act, and rights of crime victims is written in that law. And many countermeasures to protect victims, such as sharing for the witness at the court, or the anonymized name of the victim in open court of criminal proceedings. That is my first topic for my presentation, And my second topic is the sexual violence and sexual violence crimes in the criminal court in Japan, because we reformed about the sexual crimes 4 years ago. So that is quite new about this section. So that is my second topic. And I remember there is a question whether the victims trust the judicial system. So I'd like to answer this question. I think the attitudes among the priests at least is changed in many ways. Before these acts were enacted, including DV Act Prevention, DV Prevention Act or Child Abuse Act, etc., the priest does not always take the complaint from the victim seriously. But after these acts were enacted, the priest has duty to deal with these cases. And also more support is available in the course of investigation at the priest or in the prosecution phase, or also at the trial stage. And I would add one more influence among people after 2009. We introduced cyber trial system at the district court level for serious crimes cases, including forcible sexual intercourse causing death or injury, which means that we have a panel consisted of 3 judges and 6 lay persons. They decide firstly guilty or not guilty, and then a sentence. So it leads to interests among people in the criminal justice system. But sometimes it happens that victim doesn't want to have, the victim, especially of sexual offense, does not want to have a cyber trial of a panel, because a panel is consisted of lay persons, and the victim doesn't want to have a panel or open session, and public prosecutors prosecute not for this forcible sexual intercourse causing injury, but for less severe crime, such as forcible sexual intercourse. Sometimes it happens. And my first topic is the Act on the Prevention of Spousal Violence and the Protection of Victims, DV Prevention Act, I would call. And it was in effect in 2001 and revised several times to have more effective measures to prevent DV and support the victims and broaden the scope of the victim. So let's see the preamble. It says, as the Constitution, our Constitution respects individuality and equality. of course, it is ideal. And Article 14 of Constitution says all of the people are equal under the law, and there shall be no discrimination in political, economic, or social relations because of race, creed, sex, social status, or family origin. And this, the Act on DB Prevention Act also says that, as you may notice already, the majority of victims of spousal violence are women. But the purpose of this act is to prevent spousal violence and protect victims through the establishment of a system to deal with spousal violence, providing for notification, counseling, protection, support for self-reliance, etc. And violence is categorized in two in this act. First one is bodily harm. And it means that illegal physical attacks that threaten the other's life or the spouse's life or person. But the protection or orders by the court, district court, are only applicable to this category. But on the other hand, this act includes the second one, the words and deeds. So it means that this act includes psychological abuse. And also the act says that firstly, a person in the state of legally registered marriage. But I think it is important that it includes a de facto state of marriage, because in Japan, it is quite important to have a registered marriage, because children out of de facto state marriage have sometimes disadvantage. And also it includes a former spouse after a divorce. And the act doesn't say about it, but in practice, the partners includes the same-sex partners. Although according to Japanese constitution, marriage is based on both sexes. So the Japanese constitution does not have the same-sex marriage registered. Anyway, I would call spousal violence hereafter DV because it's too long to repeat. And as I already mentioned a little bit, the background of the act. The awareness is spread to, we have to eliminate the violence against women, especially in the family members. Also around 2000, we noticed that the support for the victims and in the family, and also the victims in the criminal procedure. And also in 1994, the cabinet set up the headquarters for the promotion of gender equality. And we have the basic act for gender equality, equal society. And the government is responsible to make the basic plan for gender equality. And now we have the 5th plan. So I would show you later on some numerical targets regarding TB prevention. And the pictures below are the purple ribbon I also wear today. Hopefully you could see this ribbon of purple. And purple ribbon is the symbol to eliminate violence against women. So in order to deepen public understanding or awareness, the Tokyo Sky Tree here was lit up in purple in November, because November has the International Day for eliminating of violence against women. And also this picture shows that orange ribbon, the combination with the orange ribbon. Orange ribbon is the symbol of against child abuse. So let's see the act. The act refers to the duty of the national government and local government, and also related officials. And as I mentioned already, they are responsible to make basic policy or basic plans for DV prevention. And also they are responsible to have a DV support center to collaborate with private bodies. And now we have more than 100 DV support centers. And notification system. Notification is quite important in Japan or in the world. It is not easy for the victims to solve the DV for many reasons. Actually, in Japan, most of the people think that housekeeping matters are responsible for women, and if she cannot do that, she would be blamed or something like that. So Article 6 says that those who discovered the DV victim must endeavor to notify a DV support center or a police officer. So it leads to the fact that police takes DV cases seriously, but of course, it does not always proceed to the criminal procedures. Regarding the physicians and other medical personnel, of course, they have the confidentiality obligations. So the Act says notification is above confidentiality obligations, but remind that the physicians don't have the duty to notify. They just have to try to notify a DV support center or a police officer, because as you could see, the article says that the medical staff or physicians are to endeavor to respect the intentions of the person. But as you could imagine that it is very, very complicated, because the victim is not willing to report because she may be treated, such as if she leaves him or husband, he might cause harm on the child or her parents or her friends, or she might be under mind control and she may think that she cannot do anything without him, or she may think that he needs her, or she may think that he uses the violence to correct her bad behavior. I have heard that victim escaped from the house 7 times. It means that the victim escapes again and again, but they comes back home again and again. So she runs away from the house 6, 7 times. And also, let's see, let's compare with the child abuse cases. We have the Child Abuse Act, and according to the Child Abuse Prevention of Child Abuse Act, it says a person shall promptly give notification to the child guidance centers. So it means that if you find out the child abuse case, you don't need any consent from anybody. You just give notification promptly. This is different. And DV support centers, which are stipulated by DV Prevention Act, and DV support centers to provide consultation services for victims, temporary protection, information to help victims, and there are now, as I told you, that 100 centers nationwide. And let's see this card. This card says that if you want to consult, you can use only one single telephone number, 8808. I could show you this number, this size card. So it is very convenient to use this kind of card. And the sometimes you could see this kind of card posted in the public toilet, in the public facilities, especially in women's toilets for public facilities. And let's see the number of concentration at the DV support center. See this. And after 2014, we have more than 100,000 consultations. And the most recent number is 2019. It shows almost 120 consultations. And this is the total number. And this is consultations from female. And this is from male. So it means that most of the consultations are from females. And this is the numerical targets. And I would point out one thing, that we are trying to have more number of one-stop support centers for victims of sexual crimes, and also DV support centers like this way. And the Act defines the protection order by the district court according to Article 10. If a declaration from a victim is made to a court, a protection order will be issued against the perpetrator, but only when further violence poses a serious threat to life or a danger of serious physical violence. Violence defined in the categorized in the first one. So we have 4 types of protection order. First one is order to vacate for lasting 2 months. It means that you have to leave the residence and to refrain from loitering in that area. And the second one is stay away order for the victims lasting 6 months. It prohibits approaching to the victim's residence, workplace. And to ensure the effectiveness of the second one, the stay away order for the victim, and we have 2 more orders types. The third one is order prohibiting approach to the victim's relatives or children, because sometimes perpetrator approaches to the children, trying to approach to the victim, and he might be waiting at the school of the children to follow the children after school to find out the new address. Or the relatives might know the new address. And also order prohibiting phone calls or other behaviors, because sometimes perpetrator repeated emails, faxes, etc. And also prompt judicial decisions is requested by Article 14, and if it is violated, 1 year imprisonment with work or less than 8,000 euro fine. So this is the number of protection order, and yeah, you could see not that increasing. But on the other hand, the green one, that is the number of consultation, is increasing. And I will show you the number of violation of court orders. This is the low line, this one. And the line above shows the number of DV cases connected to criminal code offenses and other law offenses. The perpetrator is not always men, of course, in this table also. And this table doesn't show the name of the offenses, but as far as I know, we have about 100 DV murder cases a year. I would exaggerate that in half of such murder cases, I mean, in 50 murder cases, the murdered victims are men. In those cases, a woman killed her husband because after repeated husband's violence, a woman doesn't find out any other means than erasing him from the world, and decided to kill him to escape from his violence when he is asleep or drunk or otherwise unable to resist. And this is the framework, how the measures are working together to prevent DV and protect victims in the network of related officials. So you could see the district court here and the police and the support center and public and so on. But I don't think I have enough time left. So let's go on. Oh, sorry. And I think it is also the very important factor you should think about. The other important factor we should think is the impact on the children. And according to the Child Abuse Prevention Act, we have 4 types of abuse, and the fourth one, emotional abuse or psychological abuse, includes the DV, because it's very important and it is revised in 2004. And this is the number of children notified at the Children Guidance Center as child abuse cases. Child guidance centers are to be set up by the local government, is to promote the welfare for children and defending their rights. The upper here indicates emotional abuse, mostly connected to their parents' DV cases. And after 2014, the number of notifications from the police to the child guidance centers increased because the police established a system to actively intervene in DV cases. And this is the number of the child abuse cases at the police. And this table shows that the cases where the police recognize the cases and the perpetrator is arrested or investigated at the police and may proceed to the criminal procedure. Therefore, in this table, the most are physical abuse or sexual abuse, which may constitute a criminal offense. So therefore, the psychological or emotional abuse is very small because it does not constitute a criminal offense. And I added the newest figure of 2020. It was increasing maybe because of the COVID-19, but it's not sure. And the second topic is criminal code reform regarding sexual offenses against women. Before the reform in 2017, we have the offenses. It is as shown here. Sorry, it is this one, the old one. But before the reform, conducts are limited, first one, and the victim is limited. Sorry, the conducts, yes, the conducts are limited, and also the victim is limited. And the sanction is not that severe. And also we introduced a new offense, this one. Now we have these articles 177. But still we're discussing that we should change the article because in Japanese criminal code requires for the forcible sexual intercourse, assault or violence or intimidation requires specific extent in a very narrow range. So it means that the victim cannot resist. So it is difficult to prove this extent because the victim cannot make any movement or shout because the victim was too terrified to freeze. On the other hand, the perpetrator may insist that he believed that there is a consent from the victim because the victim doesn't move or doesn't shout or something like that. And also in Japan, 99.9% of the prosecuted cases are guilty. So it means that the public prosecutors prosecute only when they are convinced of sufficient evidence and to have guilty. So it leads to the fact that sometimes the sexual crime cases are not prosecuted, or even when it is prosecuted, the court might conclude that not guilty because of insufficient evidence for the violence used in the case to this extent, narrow extent. So we have several cases which concluded not guilty, and in 2019, women gathered with flowers to protest after acquittal of 4 rape cases, and which is called flower demonstration. And now we're going on discussion to abolish this requirement of this phrase. And also this 13 years old of agreeable age, 14 years old or 15 years old are not mature enough, I think, to understand the situation. So also the discussion is going on. And this is the final slide of my presentation. And this is the number of reported cases to the police of forcible sexual intercourse or forcible indecency. However, it is definitely obvious that the figure is far from the real numbers. Because according to the statistics of the Cabinet Office, about only one woman out of 14 Japanese women have been experienced, sorry, not only one, but 1 out of 14 women experienced forcible sexual intercourse or forcible indecency, but only 6% contacted the police. So this number was the cases reported. So this is far from the reality. Sorry, this. And of course, we need to take visible measures to prevent TB and protect the victim. But at the same time, I think it is important to educate children or educate people or younger generation to eliminate the violence against women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Hirano. Your presentation was in very detailed way, and I think we got enough information about Japan, even if Japan is not a party to the Istanbul Convention, and that was excellent. Thank you so much. Now we have 15 minutes Q&A session, and the participants are allowed to type up their questions on the chat section, chat bar. Okay. Professor, by the way, let me please read the questions for the record. One colleague, Merve Nur, asks that you told that act on preventing the supposed violence includes also psychological harms. What kind of words and deeds are causes this harm? Is there any definition of psychological harm, or is there any boundary for the acts? Thank you for your presentation. Just that.
What kind of words in this? For instance, repeatedly, you are so stupid, or you are worthless, or it should be repeatedly told, but sometimes some kind of things. And is there any definition of it? Yes, let's. Did I share the screen?
Yeah, you did.
Yes. Yes. The act only says that, no, this one, where is that? The act only says that the words and deeds by the spouse partner cause the same level of psychological or physical harm to the other spouse. So it does not constitute a crime, actually. So it is very difficult to explain, but the repeated words, as I told you, that something like that. Is there any boundary for the acts or tests for your precision and answer in advance? So it is difficult to prove this acts or deeds make a harm. So that is very difficult, but that is the limitation of the act, I think.
Okay, thank you so much for the answer, Professor. Are there any other questions? By the way, Professor Adem Sözer just WhatsApped to me, and he is just joined us, and he sent a message for his gratitude to you, Professor Hirano, and let me read it for you and for the record. My dear colleague Miki Hirano, thank you very much for your contribution to our Law on the Bosphorus Summer School with Country Report of Japan. You were very clear regarding this legislation, implementation, and current situation in Japan. With country reports, we are trying to get insight from different countries, and thanks to you, our participants will benefit from your reports while preparing their presentation. You have participated in our summer school program last year also. I hope that our work will continue for the future. I would like to thank you for your contributions again. I hope we will see you in another event soon, face to face. All the best, Professor Sözü.
Thank you very much. I appreciate.
I cannot see any other questions from the participants. Actually, we have still time, 3 minutes left. But if no one is willing, I can close the session if it's okay for you, Professor Hirano.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity too.